Hello folks, this is Steve A. Before y'all. Earlier in the afternoon when I was out shopping, I stopped to see the Big Lots store just to see what was going on. Big surprise! Signs in the windows and a big sign across the front, Big Lots hiring. So what's going on? It just closed. They just emptied the store out. Right? I'm talking about the store in Asheboro on Dixie Drive. They just emptied the store out. We counted the days down. Suddenly they're hiring? Well, I kind of went into what it might be about after I drove away. Because I had thought I heard that there were private equity or something kind of. Well, let's get down to the facts. Now, I'm going to rely on an article in the News and Observer. That's a main newspaper in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's been around, I think it's been around since almost the Civil War. NC-based company, North Carolina-based company, will keep some Big Lots stores open, including one in the Triangle. Now, they say it that way because the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and Research Triangle Park, right, and the airport right in. Now, this is interesting. This is written on March 6th, so it's 2 days ago. What's interesting is that the authoress is Renee Umstead, and you guys know if you had watched any of my Good Twins fishing videos, how many I did at the Umstead State Park, which is up Glenwood Avenue coming out of Raleigh. I just happened to notice the name. Wonder if it's related to the original family. So, there's a title to this particular photo. Now you can see that it says closing. See it? The North Carolina-based company Variety Wholesalers will acquire 118 Big Lots leases. And it's a picture from the Sun News, wherever that is. I suspect Baltimore, who knows. A North Carolina-based company will operate about 24 Big Lot stores in North Carolina. Now, think of what I just said. Up here it says North Carolina-based company Variety Wholesalers will acquire 118 Big Lots leases. And of those, about 24 that they're choosing to take are in North Carolina, which means they're going to be operating in other states. Now this is a screenshot Nothing in this episode is a promotion nor is a recommendation. Variety Wholesalers. Henderson, North Carolina. Variety Wholesalers Incorporated. LinkedIn. See the outside. Garnett Street, Henderson, North Carolina. Ooh, that looks so impressive. Now, this will come up also. Rose's Discount Stores. Now here in Asheboro we don't have any, but when I lived in Raleigh, oh yes, there were several big Roses. That's the name of the store. Rose's Discount Stores, contact us. And the contact is through Variety Wholesalers, 218 South Garnett Street, Henderson, North Carolina. Now, just for the fun of it, I'm going to do remember, I'm exploring. And it is that. Variety Wholesalers, they're this building here. They're across from, I would recognize this as a post office. It may not be the current post office, or maybe a big bank. All right? And what we can do is we can kick back. There's Oxford and Norlina and so on going up to Virginia. And there's 85. So Henderson is 85, goes down past it. There's Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill. There's Hillsborough, but basically they don't show Chapel Hill, but that's Chapel Hill. Do I have that right, or do I have that backwards? No, that's Chapel Hill, Durham, Raleigh, and in between is Research Triangle Park. So the people we're talking about that are going to buy a substantial number of Big Lot store leases to continue the store, to run them. Now, notice what it is. Variety Wholesalers. Variety Wholesalers. They carry, I'm guessing, a lot of different products of all kinds, and they stock stores, particularly stores that they own, like Rose's stores. So in a sense, they're already in a similar business. Who is the owner of Variety Wholesalers? James Arthur Pope, born in 1956, American businessman, attorney, former government official. He's the owner, chairman, and CEO of Variety Wholesalers. Here we go. This is a Wikipedia article. Now, I'm going this way for a reason, because we need to find out who's behind this. That's what's important. It's almost as important as the second part of this. Oh, he was a budget director in North Carolina in 2013. So he's had public office. He was under Republican McCrory, governor. James Arthur Pope, American businessman, attorney, former government official. Pope is the owner, chairman, and CEO of Variety Wholesalers, a group of 370 retail stores in 16 states. Now, why bring this up? To take over Big Lots store is not a new adventure. It's a similar adventure. Follow? He's also the president chairman of a foundation in his name. He served in the North Carolina House of Representatives. He was a budget director under Governor McCrory. He founded the American Conservative North Carolina think tank Civitas Institute. Actually, when I lived in Raleigh, I used to look at their website all the time. Civitas Institute. And this is another political think tank, action thing, the John Locke Foundation. I used to watch their online website and some of their YouTube videos. And also the James G. Martin, that was a governor, Center for Academic Renewal. Pope's family foundations contributed millions of dollars to conservative causes both nationally and in his home state. So he was born in Fayetteville, I want to see who this is. Fuquay-Vidrina, which is another town. And then they moved to Raleigh in the early 60s. He's a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, Chapel Hill. I've already mentioned Chapel Hill. BA in political science, and he's got a law degree from Duke University. So that was his foundation. Now, here's this paragraph looks important. Pope is the chairman. Now, presumably his brain and family built up what, because it doesn't suggest the family already had this stuff. So this is his business creations. Pope is the chairman and president of Variety Wholesalers since 2006. Variety owns and operates 370 stores under the names Roses. I've been to Roses stores in Raleigh area, Roses Express, Maxway, and Super 10. Now, I don't know Maxway and Super 10 in 16 states. Sales for Variety Wholesalers, a privately held company, are estimated to be the sales between $700 million and $1 billion, presumably a year. The company is headquartered in Henderson, North Carolina, with a distribution center in Henderson. And Pope first joined Variety Wholesaler in 1986. So that means he didn't build it up. Before entering the business, he was an attorney in Raleigh. He became 2007. I don't think we need to know anymore, because this goes into his philanthropic and political activities. So we know the name of the person who's in charge of Variety Wholesalers. Variety Wholesalers doesn't have a link. Yes, it does. It's a privately held company based in Henderson. It owns more than 380 retail stores in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic United States under the banners of Roses and Maxway. So now, if they get this going, it will include Big Lots. The company employs more than 7,000 workers. I'm doing this for a reason, folks. I just posted a video that the local Big Lots store that just closed is now hiring. So the original company of Variety Wholesalers is from 1930, small group of retail stores owned by the Pope family, so they did start it. Then they began the company in the 1970 and on. The company expanded by purchasing a number of other retail chains, including Roses and Maxway stores, to become one of the largest in the United States. Okay, now this article's up to date. In December 2024, we're in March 2025, Variety Wholesalers reached a deal to buy at least 200 stores. So that means Big Lots was more than 200 stores. So they're regionally selective purchase. And 2 distribution centers from bankrupt Ohio-based discount store Big Lots, and continue to operate them under the Big Lots name. So they're going to use the name, but they're going to be actually Variety Wholesalers, which they have experience at doing. Maxway stores consist of 135 stores in the junior department store competitive market. And that Super 10 consists of 85 stores. They operate under the name Super Dollars, Bill's Dollar Stores. We can imagine what those are. We have dollar stores here, right? Bargain Town. And Rose's stores have 160 locations. Walk in and you buy clothes and other things. And are competitive with discount and off-price stores. Okay? Now, we found out who one of the buyers are, who the buyer is, that's behind the fact that the Big Lots store that just closed down there, 4 miles away, is advertising for new workers. Back to the NNO article. Now I'm going into detail, folks, because I'm really interested. Variety Wholesalers, which operates those other brands, is expected to acquire 200 U.S. Big Lots stores and operate them under the Big Lots brand. Okay. Now they're talking about which of those 200 are just in North Carolina. News and Observer's in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're not interested in other states. But now here's what's interesting about this. The stores are already sitting in a location. They just closed. What I learned from this article is Variety Wholesalers, the Big Lots people didn't own the physical locations. They were leasing them. They're leasing the storefronts. There's nothing unusual about that. So then the question becomes, as you'll see, who physically owns where each of the Big Lots stores are? Not a single owner necessarily. And in fact, not a single owner. Let me show you. So they say 3 of the 200 locations were in Selma, Wake Forest, Fuquay-Varina. Maybe you grew up in Fuquay-Varina. However, landlords of several properties that could have been acquired, landlords of several properties that could have been acquired. What does that sentence mean? The Big Lots store that just closed in location X in city Y, they're going to whoever the landlord is and saying, Variety Wholesalers wants a new lease on that storefront. We want a new lease on that storefront. But some landlords, however, landlords of several properties that could have been acquired, filed objections to the assumptions or assignments of subleases to Variety Wholesalers. Now, what does that say? When Big Lots made an agreement, I'm interpreting this, I'm not a lawyer, I'm reading a newspaper article. When Variety Wholesalers got an agreement for about 200 Big Lots stores, not all of them, they also made a deal for the current leases. But Big Lots bankrupt corporation doesn't have the legal authority to actually switch the leases over, at least not in all situations. Transfer the ownership, who's responsible for the lease. Because the real owners who gave the leases filed objections to the assumption and assignment of subleases to Variety Wholesalers. They don't want the Big Lots store there. It's closed, goodbye. That's what I interpret that to mean. For example, Food Line. We know about Food Line. There's a couple down here in Asheboro. Food Line is the landlord of the Big Lots location on 12,295 Capitol Boulevard in Wake Forest. Hang on. Hang on. I lost my track. Hang on. 12295. I know where Capitol Boulevard is. It starts in Raleigh. Hang on. 12295 Capitol BLVD. Wake Forest University used to be there, but Wake Forest University moved. See, it already knows it. There's the store. There's Route 1, which is Capitol Boulevard. It's a shopping plaza. Okay, it's a main highway. There's the shopping center. And there's the Big Lots store that is specifically being mentioned. Now, what I'm interested in so it's Regional Finance, Beauty Studio, Habitat Wake Restoring Cabinet, Surplus Furniture and Warehouse. Now, what am I looking for? I'm looking for Food Lion in Wake Forest. Now, look, my mind is wandering, but what we're doing is a complex understanding. Food Lion, Wake Forest, North Carolina. It's not in US 1. It's not on Capitol Boulevard. It's on Crenshaw Corners Drive. So what does that tell us? There's the Food Lion store. And what we'll do is we'll go to this layer. There's Route 1. There's Route 1. I wish it would stop doing that. There's Lowe's Home Improvement. I'm trying to see if we can see where. Let's go in a little closer. Chick-fil-A. If I click here, this is 11993, so that means that what we're looking for is they're not giving a street address. There's a Target. It's not giving a street address. 12400. So the place that we're actually where the Big Lot store is approximately there, like where the all right, and the Food Lion's over here. What does that suggest? Food Lion might very well have previously been in that other location, bought up the whole shopping plaza, or created it to start with, but decided to. I'm speculating, but the point is that what I was interested in is that the Food Lion store is not in the same plaza as where the Big Lot store is. But they own it, and they don't want the new Big Lots to open there. They've filed an objection. Now, wait a minute, I'll take that back. they might want to renegotiate the lease for twice as much money. Got it? They don't mind, just as long as they are dealt with directly, given full respect, and we'll tell you what the rent will be. You can't assume the rent that was already being paid. The property is more valuable now. See what I'm doing? Back to the N&O article. So what has happened is that a number of places who were the leasers say you can't just switch it over. You have to renegotiate. Now, I'm going to come to the end. Which stores in Triangle will variety wholesalers acquire? We're not interested in that. When I scrolled further down, this is the part we're interested in. Elsewhere in North Carolina, variety wholesalers will acquire 24 other Big Lots stores. So now we know that there are 4 locations in dispute about the lease, but the rest apparently might not be in bad shape. And because it's alphabetical, what's at the top of the list right here? Asheboro, 1432 East Dixie Drive. The just prior video about Big Lots in the store closings playlist, I stopped and I went up close to the window and I saw that they were taking job applications. And that implies there isn't any problem with the switchover of the lease. Whoever owns that store front. Now what I did do is look further down the list of places. Concord, Elkin, Fayetteville, Franklin, Greenville, Hickory, High Point. High Point's up by Greensboro. Fayetteville's down near the big Army military base. They changed the name of it, but they got it back by a snooker move to the original Fort Bragg. Hickory is west of us. Jacksonville, Kannapolis is near southwest of us. Laurinburg is down Route 1 going past Raleigh. Lincolnton is further west. Moxville is west. Mooresville is near RTP. Morehead City is at the coast. Mount Airy is Andy Show, right up near the Virginia border, north of us here. When I say remember, I'm in Asheboro. I'm in the actual geographical center of North Carolina, so the directions are in relation to that. Rocky Mount is northeast of us. Sanford is southeast. Charlotte is down by the shore. I'm not sure where Spindale is. Statesville is further west. Waynesville is beautiful, almost getting into the mountains country. And I'm forgetting where Weaverville is. So apparently this list of stores will be reopened under the Big Lots name. And at this point, so far as the reporting by the News and Observer, there doesn't seem to be any serious disputes about how the leases will be transferred or whatever. And that's why they're advertising. And we can know that about our store because they're actually hiring people. Remember back in one of the episodes, I wondered out loud, because I knew that there were attempts to get a hold of some of the Big Lots stores and continue. I wondered if the one here would be valuable enough for somebody to do that. Now, just for the fun of it, I've been to Charlotte. It's down in an eastern corner. Let me just talk about the beauty of North Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina. There's Big Beach. You see, I told you it's down near the shore. It's down, you go down out of Wilmington and you're headed to South Carolina. There's there's Ocean Beach, Oak Island. They're more, well, they've been built up, but years ago when I went fishing down there, it was just so beautiful. And what we're looking for, I'm curious, big lots, Main Street, shallot. What's a shallot? It's a kind of onion. Hang on. It might be spelled a little, shallot without the E. Shallot plants. Do you see the bulbs? Do they look kind of like onions? And they look like that when you're growing them. They look like a different kind of onion. You see it? You use it for cooking, for flavoring. They're delicious. Remember, I'm an Aggie. Now my mind is wandering, but I'm showing you that life is complicated, and clearly they chose to add an E to that name. And what we're interested in is there's the Big Lots store in Charlotte, and it's a pretty sizable store. Okay? That doesn't look like the same store, does it? There's videos by owner. Okay, there you go. So the reason why I wanted to look to see about the Charlotte store is that when I was in Charlotte years ago, it was just a small, if you blinked you would miss it driving through, but all of the shore has, when I say when I was down there, I'm talking about 20 years ago. Just like RTP area and a lot of places in Greensboro and High Point, if you saw them 20 years ago and you see them today, wow, what a difference. And why is that? It sounds like I'm off topic, but why would somebody be interested in buying up these bankrupted stores in North Carolina? 20 and 30 years ago, to use an example, Massachusetts was the 10th largest state, population-wise. It isn't anymore. North Carolina is 9th or 10th. It wasn't 30 years ago. Whole lot of people left the north and came down here. So when I say 20 years ago, if you'd driven through Charlotte, you could blink and miss it. But that doesn't mean it's that way today, just as I'm going to say the final statistic, so that you understand why there would be, I thought there was a possibility that we were going to be able to keep some of our Big Lots stores. When I came to North Carolina in 1985, in that period of 1985 to 1990, was the beginning of, now let me say it, I lived in Raleigh. Research Triangle Park was on the way up. Now get this in your mind. The population increase of the Research Triangle Park and around it, remember back then, Cary was all pasture land. You won't find any pastures there now. Beginning in the second half of the 1980s, when I came to North Carolina, to Raleigh, that area's population was increasing 10% a year. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand what compound interest is? Compound interest. Not calculator. Defined. Compound interest is the interest that you earn on interest. This can be illustrated by basic math. And what they're going to show you is, if you start with $100 and this year you get $5 interest, so now you have $105, but you still have 10% interest. So this coming year you do earn more than $5 on the $105. And geometrically, it grows very rapidly after a few years. What about populations? As the population influx was increasing 10% every year, they had to build to keep up with it. And yes, there were businesses opening, which is why the people were arriving. Now, compound interest, Einstein, quote, Albert Einstein, quote, Albert Einstein, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Talking about a super mathematician speaking. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Highlights the power of compound interest. Compound interest is a process where interest is earned on previously earned interest, which can lead to exponential, not linear, exponential. Linear, exponential growth. This can be a powerful tool for wealth creation as the population went through exponential growth in RTP. There was exponential building, wealth, businesses, attracting more businesses, but it can be harmful if not used carefully. But Einstein, back in the 30s, called it the eighth wonder of the world. When I drove through Charlotte in the early 2000s, it was a little hick town. You saw the Big Lots store. And I'm happy to announce, now see, I've gone on and on, but I don't care. I'm happy to announce we know that what's happening down there at the Big Lots store is stable. Steve A. before you. Yes, my mind wandered. Yes, I'm brainstorming. Yes, there's some reminiscing in this. Yes, we're talking about store closures and now turnaround store openings. Saying see you in 73.